Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming or Battlefield-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, most of you guys already know this, but if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in a future episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a YouTube message. So the first question for today comes from Mint Crispy, who asks, I heard that there may be 35 versus 35 in Battlefield 4. What do you think? So I have a feeling that DICE is going to be doing something about the player count, either bumping it up to 70 like you said, or dropping it down to 60. And that's for a couple of reasons. The first reason being is that there are now going to be 5-man squads, and if your math is good, you'll know that if you add up all the way up to 64, there is no way once that server gets full that every single squad will be completely full. And that just doesn't seem right from a design standpoint. You would assume that once you have a full server, that everyone is going to be in a full squad. That just makes sense. The other reason being is that DICE is really trying to promote teamwork in the squads themselves, and that's coming in the form of field upgrades. And if you have a 64-man server and there are those couple of people that are left out from all of the other squads, then they're not going to be able to unlock the field upgrades as fast as the other squads and not be as effective. If you have more people in your squad and you're reviving more of them, you're giving them more ammo, you're spotting for them, your field upgrade path is going to unlock faster than I'm assuming if you only have 2 people in there. So that's just another reason why it doesn't really make sense that they would stick with the 64-man servers. Now the real question comes in, will they bump it up to 70 or drop it down to 60? And my gut feeling is that they are going to bump it up to 70. Going from Battlefield 3, which has 64 players on it, down to 60 feels like a downgrade. It is a downgrade. And when they're trying to sell their shiny new toy, where they're saying everything is newer and better, to be like, hey, PC players, I know you really liked having 64 people on a map, but we're gonna bump it down to 60. While I don't think that would really have a large negative effect on their sales by any means, it would be a little disappointing and it would just feel like a downgrade. And so now the question is, can the next gen systems handle 70 players on them? And while we haven't really gotten a good look at the capabilities of the Xbox One and the PS4, I want to say that they can handle it. I'm not a game developer by any means. I've never created a video game before, but I can't imagine having a couple more people on a server would just ruin the stability of the game and really hamper its performance. So I want to say that for Battlefield 4, they're going to bump it up to 70. It would be really awkward and weird if they kept it at 64 for all the things they said, all the things I said previously, but if they can't bump it up to 70, I would think that they would drop it to 60. The next question for today comes from a wide-eyed carrot who asks, in Battlefield 3, the set look of the classes often ruins the immersion of the game, especially in the Aftermath DLC, where there are often 20 or so Assault class players in the same match who all look exactly the same. What would be your thoughts on DICE maybe including random class models or an increased number of class models to solve this problem? One of the great things about the Battlefield franchise is that DICE has done a fantastic job with their character models. They allow you to identify who is an ally and who is an enemy, the different factions, but also what class they are playing on. And then you can use that information to your advantage. So if you are playing as an engineer, your weapons do really well up close, and you see a recon way off in the distance, and you've identified he is a recon because of his player model, you can then use that information, close the gap, and then take advantage of your weapons, leaving him at a disadvantage. And it's because of those distinct player models that allows you to do that. And so for Battlefield 4, while I wouldn't be completely opposed to the idea of having very small visual changes to the faces of the soldier, I'm not really seeing the issue that you're bringing up, because if this was a first-person experience, then absolutely, if all the NPCs looked exactly the same, that would break the immersion. But you have to remember that this is a multiplayer, and while I do want it to be immersive, is this something that I really want DICE to invest a lot of time into? I mean, I don't think it would take a lot of time for them to maybe make very small, slight changes to the characters' faces, but if that time could be better spent on class balance or adding in new weapons or something along those lines, I would prefer them to focus on that. Now, the next question for today comes from a lot of you, and I'm not exactly sure why I haven't answered this one in the past, but it is, would you like to see two-person jets in Battlefield 4? So this is really cool in concept, and it would add a different dynamic and layer of teamwork that currently isn't in Battlefield 3, especially for vehicle combat. But when you start to look at it from a balance perspective, you run into some problems. Currently in Battlefield 3, jets are a little bit overpowered, at least if you are amazing in a jet pilot. Like the skill gap between someone that is new in a jet to someone that has been a jet pilot since day one is gigantic, especially when you compare it to a good tank driver to a new tank driver. And so what this has created is a system where jets, or at least good jet pilots, don't have any counter. Stinger missiles have a very hard time taking them out, helicopters have a very hard time taking them out, and the only real hard counter is other jet pilots. And when you have a rock paper system gameplay that DICE really likes to have, you start to run into some issues. And so now let's kind of think of how would they implement a two-seater jet into this equation. If it's anything like the attack helicopter, where one person is the pilot and maybe they have access to some rocket pods, and then the gunner is the guy who is going to be manning the machine gun, which they can maybe move around a little bit, and maybe they also have access to the TV missiles. How would you balance that? Like, how would you make that work? Because if it's got the same speed and maneuverability as a normal jet in there, then they are going to destroy everything. Like if they go against a normal jet, because the gunner is able to aim his machine gun and it doesn't just fire in a straight line, then he's going to destroy enemy jets without a problem. You get on the tangle, you get on the tail of it, you can lead the target without a problem and destroy them into smithereens. If you had access to a TV missile, then you're going to be able to destroy everyone on the ground, and at the same time, the pilot can also be firing rocket pods. And so now your counter argument might be, well, maybe don't give them access to the TV missile and a movable machine gun. Make it so that it's a stationary machine gun like it currently is, and maybe make it so that it's like the single player experience in Battlefield 3 where you're kind of flying around and you just kind of lock onto things on the ground and it fires a missile down below. And if they did that, I would say it would be a lot more balanced, definitely would be a lot more balanced in that department. But what would you gain from that gameplay-wise? Like, why would you want to be a gunner in that scenario? Because if you guys remember the campaign version of it, it was really, really boring. It was like, I want to be flying around. I don't want to be the guy that's just locking on things to the ground. Like, that just isn't a very enjoyable gameplay experience. And so, like I said, it would be very challenging for them to try to implement a two-seater jet into the equation where you already have jets in there, you already have helicopters, you have to think about Stinger missiles. I mean, it kind of becomes a nightmare. So if you guys have some sort of idea on how you would like them to be implemented into Battlefield 4, let me know, because I do think it's a really cool concept. I'm just not exactly sure how they could be implemented in such a way that not only would be balanced, but also would be fun for the pilot and also for the gunner. But that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Once again, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, like I said, you can leave a comment down below or send me a YouTube message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.